So we talk a lot about what makes us drink every week, but for some people, these kind of thoughts about what makes things scary in life feel so out of character that they can paralyze you with anxiety. They're often called intrusive thoughts, and they can be debilitating. That's what OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder is like. It can demolish your quality of life. And I know because I have OCD myself. And I was really fortunate when I started going to therapy and my therapist happened to have specialized in OCD and recognized it right away. But I think it would have taken me a lot longer to figure it out or to find any sort of guidance or help if I hadn't met her. And that's why I'm so thankful for NoCD. It's such a great platform. They make OCD feel so much less isolating because OCD often goes hand in hand with shame or not wanting to be open about these things. And not every therapist understands OCD or is qualified to treat it effectively, which can make it difficult to find the right help. OCD is highly treatable, though, with a specialized type of therapy called ERP, or exposure and response prevention. With NoCD, you can do live virtual ERP therapy with licensed therapists who specialize in OCD. NoCD therapists are highly trained, so they really understand OCD and they won't judge you no matter what your thoughts are about. Okay, no matter what. NoCD therapy is covered by insurance for over 155 million Americans. They also have an awesome community on there. I'm part of it. I love to see other people's success stories or just even venting, that kind of thing. If you think you or someone you know might be struggling with OCD, please don't wait to get help. Go to nocd.com and book a free call with their team to learn more. That's nocd.com to schedule a free call and learn more.
Happy December, everybody. It is another listeners episode for you where we read your submitted stories. Sometimes they are spooky, sometimes they are true crimey, but today we have a theme. It is all about satanic panic this month.
Because we have an expert. We have an expert on our panel. It's the first time we've ever had a panel, and we have an expert today, so I feel like that word is appropriate.
Yes.
Hello, Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, my name is Sarah Marshall, and I am not a satanic panic expert, but I am proof that if you remain enthusiastic and interested in the same thing for 10 years or more, people will just decide to grade inflate you to an expert.
Exactly.
And if you want to, you can ride that all the way to Congress.
I was going to
and
say,
I think it's very big of me to
that-
choose not to.
Totally. Yeah. I'll give you the label. You don't have to accept it.
Well, I guess put it on the table and cut off small slices to
That's
eat.
beautiful. Wow, how poignant.
Yeah, this is Sarah Marshall. Let me know if I get anything else wrong, but I'm going to call you a journalist, a writer, and a podcaster. All those fit?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
That is, those are definitely objectively
Factual
Those are objectively
And
true.
satanic panic armchair expert?
Well, it's been a long year. I don't know words anymore.
Well, we have a few stories we're gonna read, and of course, if you have any feedback or input, we would love to hear that. Or it's pretty lax over here, so we would love to hear your thoughts on people's experiences. Christine, do you want to start?
Sure.
Okay. Perfect.
If I may. All right. Actually, maybe you should have started, but it's too late, because this one is called Satanic Panic and Pokemon.
Oh, great. That's one of my big fixations.
Sarah's like, I'm already on the wrong podcast. This is already derailing. Okay. This is from Paula, she, her. And it says, "Hi, everyone. I saw your story on Instagram asking for satanic panic stories and immediately thought of my mom." Oh, that's nice.
Great.
My family's all originally from a small farming town in Mexico. Everyone knows everyone and their business type beat. On top of that, everyone is very Catholic. Yippee! Since it was such a small town, all the moms knew each other and gossiped together and whatnot. So you best believe word gets around quickly.
Mm-hmm.
This particular story revolves around my brother. It takes place in the 90s when he was 8 or 9 before we moved to the States. Back then, when you would buy a bag of chips, lots of time there would be some form of collectible in the bag, usually a small toy, like something that would come in a Kinder Egg. My brother collected a specific kind called Tazos, small metallic or wooden discs with designs on it. He collected the Pokemon ones, and he had a lot. I mean, more than any other kid in town. And back then, games and collecting was taken very seriously. While my brother was amassing his collection, my mom was growing concerned. You see, all the moms would watch this news program called Primer Impacto, or First Impact in English. It shared news, but was way too dramatic for its own good. Apparently, it ran a segment linking Pokemon to the devil, detailing all the subliminal satanic messages in the show and the games. So as moms in the 90s, they all panicked and they believed it. One day, my brother came home from school and found my mom in the backyard next to a bonfire.
Oh gosh,
First
burning
of
all
all,
of his Pokemons.
Yeah, and I just want to
Aw.
say, like, even if it were satanic, especially if it were satanic, don't burn it. You're just gonna
Right. You're just
release
gonna
all the
release the
demons.
devil energy.
Yes,
Exactly.
like,
How
what
come
kind of
we're the ones
Catholic-
who have to tell people that? They should know.
It's like
Thank
that's the
you.
most ritualistic thing that's happened to these Pokemon. if
Right, you're
anything.
probably creating the problem. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oy vey. Okay. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. What was in the fire, you ask? Good question. All of his Tazos. His collection was wasting away in a fiery blaze before his very eyes. This is very traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can imagine how distraught he was. This is calling you out. It would basically be if someone burned your whole Pokemon card collection.
It couldn't be done without me committing a crime
Think of the
afterwards.
value of those demons on eBay today.
Haunted, burned, demonic Pokemon card. Yeah, that's actually probably you could get quite a profit.
They're super rare, I guess. They're perfectly singed, you know?
That's right. 90s, yeah, for sure. Original.
Previously satanic.
She said she did it because she didn't want him being exposed to the devil's messages. To this day, we always bring it up whenever we want to give my mom grief. It's funny now, but probably not back then. In any case, that news show always ran crazy shit and spread a lot of panic back in the day. I'm not sure if it's airing still, but everyone is less prone to believing it now. I'm sure our parents have moved on to believing AI images of Jesus surfing on lava on Facebook or something like that. Justice for my brother and love you all lots. Bye-bye, Paula. The end.
Paula.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember going through a phase where I learned about music like backmasking, which is like when you play a song backwards and it might have a message.
Paul is a dead man. Kill him, kill him.
Well, the Pokemon theme song, apparently when you play it backwards, does say, "I love Satan, I love Satan." So not to validate the
you
belief
were
here.
in a past life a producer on this fucking television show. I mean, it was while you were alive, so that's probably not how that works. But I feel like you'd fit right in, like some sort of yellow journalism.
I feel like with Pokemon, it's very not very similar, but I feel like it fell into the same blacklisted categories like Harry Potter and things like that. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's animals that are unnatural or something. I mean, what's your take on this, Sarah?
Well, I mean, I think based on the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, we can actually assume that all the Pokemon became real. They wandered off into the countryside.
Oh my god!
Right.
That's a great point.
At the moment the fire started and saved themselves, and they're still out there somewhere. So I think that's really nice.
Now
But
they have a
also,
little community.
I feel like I have like a blind spot in this area because I've researched the satanic panic for years, but I personally have never believed in the devil, and I don't care about the devil, it's just not an exciting or scary area for me, because I feel like if you want to scare me, just like put on, anything on the Investigation Discovery Channel about a guy named Dale, and I'll be sad.
You're in the right place.
Yeah. This is where Em and I kind of have like the differing, where I'm like, fuck it, and Em's always a little more. Being the Jewish one is always like, I'll say the Our Father just in case.
Just in case. You never know which one's gonna work. So
it's like whatever saves me.
Because you got to be pragmatic. But I feel like this is the kind of thing where it's like. And, the satanic panic, historically, there's been a lot of panic over children's toys. And Chelsea Weber-Smith over at American Hysteria has done some great research on, like, specifically the panic around kind of like 80s Saturday morning cartoons. And I think, like, for example, Rainbow Bright was supposed to be like, you couldn't let your kids watch Rainbow Bright because she was, I don't know, pagan or something. It's
what? I didn't know that.
It's like none of these things were a thing until they pointed at it and said she's pagan, and suddenly it's like, oh, I guess she is now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting that it feels like the people who are scared of the devil are seeing him in everything historically.
Isn't
and that's still been consistent.
Well, I got these little guys, and everyone, and I read a review that was like this Labubu, and they were like, oh my god, the church needs to step in. And I'm like, what is going on
about that? And it's like, well, I would like it if like we did more, sort of to encourage overconsumption less as a
Right.
function of organized
We could
religion.
focus
But that's
on
not
that.
what people are saying.
Yeah, that's not the point,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. I'm like, I could understand your point if that
So
were
I guess
it.
the idea that the devil is like, I don't know, I mostly find it confusing, and I just want to hear more about it, honestly, where it feels like there's this idea that the devil is like very powerful, very scary, can literally take your soul, but also is like forced to do something as undignified as like sneaking
Yes.
in on like, I know these aren't pogs, but I'm just picturing pogs.
It looks like a pog,
you know?
I
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. He sneaks in on a pog. Exactly. Like, he must not be very impressive or convincing or
Yeah.
influential if he needs to like get little kids on board via Rainbow Bright morning
If I were the
cartoon.
Prince of Darkness, I would not be sneaking into people's houses on pogs, you know?
Right,
I just wouldn't. It
I
would
mean,
be
maybe we
beneath
just
me.
don't get it, you know? Maybe there's just
We
this
just don't
whole-
get it.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
okay. But but the thing is, like, speaking of AI images of Jesus, like, I do find it interesting that there is such a market, and this is kind of getting back to, what ElsaGate was like 10 years ago, but now we have the capacity to create like endless AI videos. And have you seen the ones like the AI slot videos? And this is like a defined genre of like cats accidentally cooking their kittens into like there's a mom cat and she accidentally puts her kitten in like some food that she's making because she's thinking about having an affair off. They're always cats.
Hello?
And then her husband comes home and they eat the kitten lasagna, and then they realize what's happened, and he calls the cat police and they arrest her. And that's like the story, and that's like genre of narrative that's being shown to
No,
like really little kids.
I'm assuming this
know?
is on the dark web, right? Like, I wouldn't have access to this
No, it's
kind
just
of.
on kids' YouTube, you know.
Oh, good.
Just where we
It's
put
on my
all the
daughter's
worst stuff in the
iPad.
world.
Okay,
Right.
excellent.
And it's
Good,
like,
good.
So we have like human beings who are intentionally terrifying children because it's like a little bit more profitable than doing, back in the good old days of 2019 when we just had like Eastern European kinetic sand slicing videos, which I'm very
Correct.
nostalgic for at this
Yes,
point.
beautiful.
But I would like to panic more about that, but I guess since the devil
Seriously.
isn't involved, it's not as exciting.
It's not as
Yeah,
thrilling.
exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah,
And it's promoting family values because that mom cat was thinking about having sex.
She
so
got what
that's
she
why she
deserved.
killed her
Right.
kitten
what
accidentally.
happens.
So it's very Christian, I guess.
That's right. That's kind of what they would teach you in Sunday school anyway.
it is interesting that that's not at least equally demonic as pogs. Essentially,
Yeah, that part's
you know?
not a concern to the church.
Yeah.
It's just the actual.
Look, I was a very sensitive kid, and if I had seen like
Oh, God,
one
yeah.
video of like a mom cat accidentally making her baby into meatballs, I would have never recovered.
Oh,
I
I'm
would
barely
be in
recovering
baskets
right
to this
now.
day.
I'm barely
Yeah.
recovering just
I'm
hearing
going to think
it.
about it for the rest of the day. Thank you so
Exactly.
much.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
sensitive,
I'm sorry
too
to tell you that.
This
No,
whole
no.
genre. That's the fact that it's a genre makes me just want to cry.
Yeah, that it's a series.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
like, what
my
else is going to happen to these
God.
kittens?
Yeah, a lot of like inter-kitten family murder.
Disturbing.
Yeah, and not a problem at all. Would you like to read a story, or would you like us to read them to
To
you?
regale you with them.
I would love to read one.
Okay, would you like to read
Yeah.
the next one?
Yeah. Is that just like 2 form submission hypnosis?
Number
gone
2.
wrong?
That's right.
okay.
So oftentimes I'll have that last minute scramble, like trying to find a thoughtful gift, but then like having to swing the opposite direction and get like a last minute gift card or something. No more of this, okay? This year I skipped the panic and gave an Aura frame instead. It's such a great gift. They have unlimited free photos and video on there. You just download the Aura app and connect to Wi-Fi. So your recipient does not even need to, pay for an account or anything. It's so easy on the receiving end, and it's honestly really easy on the giving end, especially because you can preload photos before it ships. And then when it gets to the recipient, they get to open it and see all these beautiful photos. I mean, you could do family photos. You could also do something like real wild. I don't know. You could put like conspiracy theory pictures or like, one time I used an Aura frame to surprise my grandmother-in-law. I put the ultrasound picture on, I sent it to her frame and it showed up as a new picture. And that's how we told her she was getting her first great grandbaby. So, there's lots of fun stuff you can do. You can get weird with it if you want, but we'll leave that to, like a side chat, I guess. Every frame comes packaged in a premium gift box with no extra price tag. You can't wrap this kind of thing, okay? It's just beautiful. You can frame it. Let Aura frame it. Let Aura Frames frame it. Okay, I'm sorry. I need a nap. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code ATWWD at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code ATWWD. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Dear Christine, who should always be named first, M, you're so pretty. And Eva, thank you for keeping it all together for them. This
I
is
think
nice.
they got us mixed up, Em.
You know what?
Obviously, I'm the beauty of the group.
Right.
You know what? We'll litigate it all out after. Okay, so Laylee writes, I'm a Capricorn, so I never thought I would have a story I could share on the paranormal side. God, this is an incredible start. Thank you, Laylee. And I
Welcome
don't,
to our
quote, light up
podcast.
a
This is how
room.
people discuss.
So my chance of being murdered is greatly reduced. But then M covered mesmer. I have a great and terrible story about hypnosis, specifically hypnotherapy. Oh boy. When I was young, we had family friends who would occasionally When I was young, we had family friends we would occasionally get together with. I loved going over to their house, but always thought the mom, let's call her Elizabeth, was very nice, but weird. For example, the kids had the best toys, but Elizabeth wouldn't let me, the youngest by a year, play with the Barbies. She was convinced I would swallow the shoes, even though I was already quite past that stage in life. It wasn't until I was an adult that I understood that she struggled with severe anxiety.
Aw.
I believe it was anxiety that led her to seek professional help from a therapist. Before I go farther, I want to say I'm a big supporter of therapy. I think working with a good therapist is so important, and I'm glad she was seeking help. Unfortunately, I think this therapist did more harm than good. Her therapist encouraged the use of hypnotherapy to uncover repressed memories.
Oh.
It is important to know that this was the late 80s/early 90s in the midst of the satanic panic. The local newspaper was printing headlines like, quote, Satanism growing worry for police and satanic cults growing in preserves, which I feel like that's supposed to be like national forests or something, but it just makes me think about jam.
I
That's my
thought so
side note.
too. I was like, we pickling them? What's happening?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to sterilize your jars or you're going to get a satanic cult
you
in
don't-
there.
The
Oh my God, imagine E.
devilish
coli.
marmalade. Yeah. Look out.
Devilish.
So she goes on, the combination of the media flooding households with fear-mongering headlines and Elizabeth's extreme anxiety made hypnotherapy a disaster for her and her family. Elizabeth's therapist, quote, guided her to, quote, memories of her uncle being the leader of a satanic cell. The therapist helped create so-called memories of witnessing rapes and sacrifices, both human and animal. She ended up believing that her uncle was possessed by a demon, and friends and neighbors from her childhood were his followers. The poor woman, who already lived day to day with mundane fears, such as kids choking on Barbie shoes, also had to live in a world where she believed that people she once loved and trusted had performed satanic rituals on her, and anyone she knew could be a Satanist in disguise.
Oh my gosh.
The hypnosis led her to cut contact with her extended family and most of her friends. She ended up being so rattled, she stopped going to work and was fired. She eventually cut contact with our family as well. I still think about her to this day and hope she got real help. Good luck to you and all your listeners. Be careful when it comes to hypnosis and stay away from Ouija boards. Those things are messed up lately.
Oh my God. Wow, dude. Okay. So, I mean, you hear about these things, right? And I guess
Yeah.
obviously they happen, but it's wild to hear like, oh, I knew a woman who went through that exact scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of the funny things about so much of the satanic panic is that a lot of it didn't even rise to the level of news, you know, like you could have
Right.
someone go through like very destructive and dangerous therapy as part of this bigger movement, and unless it ended up in some kind of a massive lawsuit
Right.
you know, it would just, there's, I think, so many people out there with these stories.
That's dark because it's like you're already vulnerable. You're already mentally trying to find help and not in the best place. And then it's like, oh, I know what'll fix it.
It's like everyone around me I can't trust, and
Oof.
Yeah.
maybe hurt me.
Yeah.
And, oh man.
I mean, there are ways in which I think that the culture of the satanic panic itself came actually to resemble the kind of cult that they were looking for. And I realize I say the word cult like a baby horse, but just, I mean, I don't know. You
Oh,
could
I didn't
picture a
even
baby
notice.
horse and it would be soothing. Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
To the extent that there's an Oregon accent, that's like the only way that I can hear it manifesting.
Is it
but-
cult?
Yep, these satanic cults, just running wild and free. But I feel like, especially in the therapy arm of it, there are, there's kind of a distinct pattern of women, seeking therapy, starting therapy, having a therapist who's kind of bought in on this idea of recovering memories, just like the therapist in this story, and who basically will not stop until you confirm their thesis, which is that any kind of depression or issues with mental health, like, probably just come from satanic abuse, and you should probably just produce a story about it, or else you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
And that there's also this trend where, for a lot of women who went through this, and it was overwhelmingly women who this therapy was targeted at, you would, be in these long therapeutic sessions. Potentially you would be under hypnosis, not just for an hour, but for perhaps several hours at a time, especially if your insurance was covering that, which it used to. And you would go to groups with other people who were allegedly, recovering memories of satanic abuse. You would kind of compare notes and often kind of feel like, well, if this is happening to this other person in my area, then it must have happened to me, because the theory is that, by definition, you're not in therapy for the things you remember, you're in therapy for the things that you don't. And then often if and kind of, again, like as this letter talks about, the therapy would have this like very damaging effect on your life, where you would like lose the ability to work, lose the ability to parent. Potentially you were kind of being forced to spend so much time thinking about these traumatic experiences, like in a hypnotic state, that even if they had never actually happened, you were kind of creating the impact of them being a part of your life. And so the women who dropped out of this therapy, or whose insurance stopped covering it, or who got, dropped by their therapists for whatever reason, or stopped going to these groups, often it was the case that you would just kind of, without putting that effort into telling yourself that this is what you had been through, it just stopped feeling real, because it wasn't.
Yeah, okay, I was going to ask that. I was going to ask if those memories persisted as real seeming, or if they kind of faded.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there were also some people for whom they did persist. I think it's probably very personal. And there's a New York article that I wish I could remember the author of, but that came out maybe 10 years ago, that talks about one of the effects of false confession being that if you are kind of in a situation where you are interrogated by the police long enough that you or are told, sort of kind of in a situation not too different from this type of therapy, that like, no, we know that you committed this crime, so you might as well confess to make it easier. That if you were asked to tell that story over and over again and told, by authority figures that contrary to what you claim, this is actually what happened, it's possible to create those memories for yourself and not be able to get rid of them. And there are some people for whom that stays very real, and some people who are able to slip out of it. But it's also possible to believe that you committed a crime that you were physically incapable of actually committing. And I think that that's just a very, maybe something that we don't want to believe about how memory works, because that's pretty scary.
Yeah, and they talk about witness reports being very, very faulty, more faulty than people realized until they started studying it. And it's like, you don't, like, your brain can easily switch like a perceived thought into your own reality so quickly that, that's just like a slippery slope for I'm glad that satanic panic has, for the most part, not become like a very, very, well, I guess, I don't know. Would you agree, Sarah, that has not become like a very lasting, like it kind of had its moment?
I think that it's interesting, because I feel like we're living through some form of satanic panic now, but it feels very different, because I think it's very much a politicized phenomenon, and it's very much being used by the right. And like, what's nice is that we don't have like well-meaning, because in the 80s you would have like not at all conservative, but just kind of well-meaning feminists who got caught up in this out of the feeling that this was the only way that we were going to have any kind of care offered for people who had been through sexual abuse or trying to prevent child abuse in the future. And so now it feels like it's very much a product of the right. And it's really what we're seeing now is kind of anytime someone criticizes you, anytime your policies seem crazy because they are, anytime you're like needing to explain away the criminal history of the current president, you can just accuse your enemies of being Satanists. And that's enough, I guess. It feels
or
like
communists.
it's being used more as a Band-Aid.
Easy.
Yeah, or both. Why not?
Both. Well, they're probably synonymous.
Why not both?
Yeah.
What do you think, I'm trying to figure out the best way to pose the question, but when do you feel like the quintessential satanic panic kind of died off, and or do you feel like it's kind of just maybe redefined? No, I don't
morphed.
I guess,
feel like
because
everybody who studies this has a slightly different answer. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah. No, I was going to ask if you thought it had morphed into something else, but I guess
I mean,
politically.
I'm sorry, go on. Keep cutting you off.
No, you're okay. I guess with everyone's, at least in my world and in Christine's world, we're often surrounded by a lot of people who are like now proudly, outspokenly into like, witchcraft or, more spiritualism and things like that. How did we go from satanic panic to this like space where everyone can,
where like witchy is just an aesthetic, like
or like they can proclaim this stuff and there's no satanic panic that's kind of pressing them away from it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was in kind of East Kentucky, which is where the show, the Satanic Panic show that I have out, The Devil You Know, where that story kind of starts, because we begin with a story about this woman being chased out of town for daring to try and teach photography to teenagers because a rumor started that she was looking for blonde, blue-eyed kids to sacrifice.
Sure.
And it seems that took off partly because a Patrick Swayze movie was being filmed in the area. Why not? Why not draw that conclusion?
Of course.
And so I was like, I was in that part of the country having this feeling of like, wow, this is where, I like being a stranger in town. I like being a woman who shows up and, is doing something for the arts. And so I don't know, to me, starting with that story feels like this kind of, it could happen to me kind of a thing. And I remember going to a coffee shop and getting, I think actually it was like a homemade kind of version of the Halloween Alani knew, but it was called the Witch's Broom. So it was like a caramel and apple kind of like
cute
energy drink. It was very cute. And it made me think about like, yeah, we've like commodified a witch aesthetic. We're living in the area of the Stevie Nicks Barbie. So like we have sort of witchiness certainly is doing well, as sort of a vibe that, we understand as part of the aesthetics of the world that we live in. But I think the metaphor that I use is just going back to like Stephen King's It as a comparison, which I'm not going to offer any spoilers, but basically the idea is that, sometimes the great evil comes to town and it doesn't stop or die. It just takes a nice big nap and then it comes back, and then you have to come back and, reunite with your friends. So that's really nice. That part.
And sometimes the devil flies in on a pog. You really never know what you're going to get.
Sometimes the pogs will set him free.
Oh my God. Wow. That's so beautiful.
But what I think really is that a moral panic is always going to be useful for people who are in power to stay in power regardless of what they've done.
Like that'll be a push and pull.
And that's
forever.
always going to be needed by people. Because I think in the 80s, there was this, especially in the early 80s, we were beginning to reckon in a mainstream way with the reality of child abuse and child sexual abuse. And there was this implicit question of like, who's doing this and why? And it's like, well, mostly men who just are known to the child who they're abusing, and they're often protected by organized religion and not Satanism, because like there's a lot of sexual abuse and like that is fostered by extremely hierarchical organizations like a church.
Like, no, look at the Satanists. It's like, no, the call's coming from inside the house.
Exactly. Yeah. So whenever the call's coming from inside the house, and again today, right, where we have like, we have a lot of rapists in the White House, like more even than in the past. I know. I'm sorry to say something that no one has noticed yet.
I know. Awkward.
Breaking news on And That's Why We Drink.
But like if you have like a really, really scary man as president, you have to invent the idea of even scarier people
Right,
who make him
exactly.
seem
What are you going
less
to
scary
point
in
to as the bad
comparison.
guy?
Excellent.
Yeah, you got to
point.
make somebody up.
That's
'cause,
a really good point.
He's a very scary guy. You have to really like stretch your imagination
Yeah, you got to
muscles to think
get
of something worse.
creative.
Yeah, it's a real game of like sleight of hand or redirection, so you're not
Yeah,
paying attention
yeah.
to
Yeah,
the actual
Totally.
double.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's just to quote Wallace Shawn in The Princess Bride. What in the world is that thing?
Oh, that's so good. And honestly, we don't quote that movie enough.
No, and I guess this is also where we should plug your other podcast, You Are Good, which is a movie movie podcast. Well, that's where you're getting all your quotes from, I think, probably. But both interests are shining in the same conversation.
I
That's
know, it's
true.
amazing.
I think that The Princess Bride became so overquoted by millennials that we just put it on
I think
ice,
we
but
did
now
it
it's time to
too.
take it
Yeah,
back out.
yeah. I was gonna say, I think it's like you said with the It thing. Like, I think it's time. It's
Right.
take a nap. It took a nap.
That is
Let's
like
bring
a
it back.
very friendly return. Yeah, The Princess Bride is back in Derry. That's a good
Oh
thing.
my God, Mandy Patinkin. Let's just like live in that space for a little while. That'd be great.
Well, I've got
Hello, lady.
a third story for everyone. This is from Haley. And Haley, let's see what she has to say. Hello, M. Christine et al. And Sarah. And
That's me. I'm at all.
At all.
First off, love your podcast. And then Haley says some very nice things about us and our live show in Kansas City. Now on to your call for stories about satanic panic. As soon as I saw this prompt, I knew I needed to write in. I had the unique experience in college of having to learn about the satanic panic of the 1980s in reference to the rise of the popularity of Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
I will say now, brief trigger warning, as the story will include references to depictions of suicide. My first year at college, we were assigned a first-year seminar course where we learned about a specific topic for a semester, with the added bonus that faculty were supposed to use this class to teach students how not to fail at college, i.e., explaining deadlines, personal accountability, and planning for assignments. My class was taught by an eccentric but sweet professor who walked in on the first day of class with no shoes and a ponytail that went all the way down to his back. You know it's going to be a good time when that's the teacher.
That's when I'm
Oh,
I'm like locked in. I'm like, I'll put my phone
It's
down
like,
for this.
he's not like the rest. He's
going to tell you where the chanterelles are.
Yeah,
I'm going to his what do you call it? What's the office hours? Yeah.
100%. He plays ping pong in there or something.
For
or
sure.
Brews his own mead.
It's just
or
bean
something.
bags in there. There's no like real chairs.
Yeah. You call him by his first name, obviously.
Mhm.
He proceeded to sit cross-legged, of course, on the table, of course, at the front of the classroom and said, "Call me John." Literally, did I not
You
just?
knew it.
I knew it.
I almost said Jeff. I was close, but John. Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Promise, I didn't read
Same
ahead.
diff.
That was just a full. I could feel it in my
Now
bones.
wait till we get to a beanbag, then we'll really have nailed it. Yeah.
Call me John. You can call me Professor or Doctor, but I likely won't know you're talking to me if you don't call me John. This sets the tone for the whole class, then proceeded to show us the bridge scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Mm-hmm.
John's seminar focused on the theme of analog game studies, where we studied any game that was not digital and pondered the ever important philosophical question of what is a game and what counts as a game.
Whoa.
This guy just got a degree and said, I'm going to start riffing in this class.
And he's like, I'm going to get so high and then write a syllabus.
But you know what? You actually do take something away, I'm sure, from it. Like, it's one of those classes
I
where
feel
you're
like
like,
is a real thinker.
you're never going to
Lateral
forget him.
thinking.
I kid you not, answering this question every class was a part of our participation grade, and the answer usually boiled down to, yes, this counts as a game.
Okay.
Okay. Which leads us into extensively covering Dungeons and Dragons for a quarter of the semester. One of the first things John had us look at was reading articles and comics on how Dungeons and Dragons caused a rise in satanic panic in the 80s. Parents and religious organizations were growing more and more concerned that the act of playing Dungeons and Dragons would jeopardize someone's soul or that they were making a contract with the devil by playing this game. This led to John assigning us a reading on a comic, and this comic depicts what a very conservative sect of Christianity believed Dungeons and Dragons was really doing. D&D was poisoning and destroying young lives, and I will I'll now walk you through this comic. It starts with two teenage girls excitedly playing D&D, but they have to sign this mysterious and scary-looking contract with a dungeon master that seems untrustworthy. The dungeon master mercilessly kills one of the girl's characters in the campaign and does not make any attempt to soothe her when she is devastated about it.
Oh, no.
The two girls go their separate ways and cut to one of the girls finding out that the friend is now dead and reading her suicide note where the friend says she blames herself for her own character dying.
What?
So
It
very
was-
good chance this is a chick tract.
Yeah.
Just going to say. Yeah.
This is wild.
It was her fault that the character died, and she implied that her suicide will somehow make this right. Like she deserves. Okay, well, gross. The other girl, reasonably horrified, is not doing well. But here steps in the church as a savior.
Oh, good.
She turns her back on D&D, and the last image of this comic shows her gratefully staring at a light falling from the sky, spotlighting her hands clasped and gaze reverent.
Jesus Christ. Oh, literally. But
Literally.
anyway.
My first thought after reading this was, oh my God, how did they make those jumps in logic? Did anyone actually believe this? I stared at the page for a full minute after just having a what the heck did I read moment. My classmates shared the same sentiment when we discussed it in class, and many of us had played D&D by that point, as playing at least one session was a requirement of this class. Of course. And this guy just needed a new campaign.
Exactly.
Obviously, our experiences were nothing like that, and at least I still think I have a soul. John then shared some stories about when D&D was up and coming when he was growing up, and that this type of messaging was common. It led to us having a critical conversation on how facts can be misconstrued depending on who tells the narrative. Something that is super important to remember, especially with everything that is going on in the world today. That is all my story for now. I hope to write again soon. This and best wishes, Haley. So, I mean, it blows my mind every time I see some sort of overly religious material finding ways to make anything evil.
It's always about the children, which makes it so much more sinister. Like, let the children play with Pokemon cards and Pogs and Dungeons. Like, it's the nerdiest game ever. It's silly. Like, I don't know. Sarah, you probably have a wiser take, but I'm just
especially
like,
about Dungeons and Dragons. I feel like that's a huge topic in gaming.
Yeah.
And it being dark.
Yeah. Well,
Dark.
and I
Stranger
feel again, like, I played like very little D&D in my life. It's just like not my kind of thing. Not because of Satan, to be clear, but just, we all have our different ways of finding a hobby. I really, if people want to know, I think it's nice to just do a nice little craft and watch.
I was gonna ask
the Brady Bunch movie.
I was gonna ask what your actual I didn't
So glad you said the Brady Bunch movie. One of my top 10.
Excellent.
It's so I've been having a real moment because I'm very into the movies that get whoever picks the free movies on YouTube is just doing a really good job.
I like that.
Yeah. Good job, Bethany.
Bethany.
But
meanwhile, I'm watching Investigation Discovery about Dale and just like,
well, I mean, there's a lot of good free stuff about Dale as well.
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of supply.
There is.
But I had Adrian Dobb from the In Bed with the Right podcast on my show a while ago talking about D&D panic specifically, and something he pointed out that I always remember is that the thing about sort of panic over D&D as part of the satanic panic was that it kind of left you no way to be a good kid, because if you were like into metal or like kind of like a kid who liked to go to concerts and party, then like the devil was going to get you that way through rock and roll lyrics. And if you were like a dorky kid who just wanted to like keep to themselves and like do some fantasy role playing or like read, God forbid, some Lord of the Rings, then like that was also satanic. And I think it's very interesting that part of this was the idea that like teenagers were so stupid that they couldn't tell the difference between fantasy and reality, when in fact you look at these cases and you're like, I think the adults are the ones who can't tell the difference.
Are so
and the kids were doing just
confused.
fine.
Seriously. Then they're like, oh, a dungeon master. And you're like, please just read like one more
Yeah.
sentence about this game. It's not what you think it is.
Yeah, it involves having a lot of graph paper and just
Yeah,
like
it's
and I
really
think
boring and long. I mean,
right?
I've had my time playing, but I'm always like, I just start being like, okay, I want to like do something more. I
It's
don't
just
know.
playing pretend is all
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
fun, but
Right.
like,
But it's like,
And it's just
how is that evil? Like
doing
isn't
it past the age when it's socially appropriate, I guess. But we should all be doing
right.
it for our whole lives, you know. And also, I mean, kind of getting back to our theme of projection, it's like if I think that the devil is constantly trying to do battle with me through a pog, then like
Mhm.
I'm much more enmeshed in a fantasy world than my child who has like, you
Right.
know, maybe 3 hours a week designated for, you
And
know,
then it's
being
like,
an
then
elf
I
or
think
whatever.
about Pogs probably a lot more than any child does, which is already like, whoa, like
Mhm.
Right.
find a hobby. Seriously, go do a
Yeah.
craft and watch the
Because
Brady
it
Bunch
does,
movie.
it feels like Satan that, like, I don't know. And I thought about this a lot kind of in, you know, in putting this show together is like, who is Satan, like for Americans specifically, or, you know, for Canadians as well? Because we looked at really the satanic panic across North America. And I think that if you're in a settler colonialist society, then Satan was very useful kind of
Mm.
in the early days of North America, the United States and Canada being settled by white Europeans, because you could accuse anyone who you wanted to massacre and whose land you wanted to take of being satanic,
Yeah.
specifically for, you know, not having been converted
Hmm.
to Christianity. And so it feels like from the beginning, the United States has sort of been very reliant on Satan as a character who allows you to take whatever you want from somebody who has your stuff, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah, and I
Or
like your
somebody who
point
has their stuff that you would like to take from them and
that
not
you
worry
want.
about.
Right, exactly. And I just feel like it's just a level of discomfort and of like something other, right? It's like, oh, if you like
Yeah.
rock music, you're probably like a little bit on the outskirts. If you're playing
Right.
like nerdy games, you're not the all-American football
Yeah.
star. It's
Or
like
just the
it's
fear
just
of your
this
kids
fear.
liking something that you don't understand. And
Yeah.
it's like,
And that's not like gonna, be the all-American,
right.
well-rounded whatever stereotype.
Yeah. No.
Right. Yeah. And then you think, like,
great
I
point.
wonder if there was like any kind of a satanic panic for like if you were a kid who just was fulfilling all expectations and just like, you know,
Straight
playing
A's.
football by day and
Well,
I
my
don't know,
thought
singing
my thought
about
would
Jesus by
be
night.
that's satanic to Satan. Actually.
Yeah. Those are the Satanists are probably up in arms about those kind of kids. Yeah.
No, it feels like if the parents didn't understand it, or maybe it just started with all sex, drugs, and rock and roll or something. That if it wasn't going to church, if it wasn't being of Christ in some way, it
Right.
must. If it's either black and white. It's either Christian or it's just the devil.
Or it's anti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Or it's the old saying that idle hands are the devil's playground.
Oh, yeah,
It's
there you
like,
go.
people need time to let their thoughts wander a little bit. It's going to be fine, you know?
Yeah.
My
And
idle
really- and
hands
then
are
it kind of
just
feels
drawing
like
on
it's
graph paper.
like it's almost assigning. It's like saying, like, you know how you feel uncomfortable when your children are like growing up and actualizing as people and getting into things that you didn't choose for
Meeting
them.
new
Well, that
people, yeah.
discomfort is coming from Satan, and they shouldn't do that, and you should control
Yeah.
them for their entire
Do you
lives.
feel
And you are in
uncomfortable?
the right.
Satan's after you. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I guess it does still seep in today in our everyday lives. I mean, it seems nearly everybody who works for us seems I think is queer. We're queer, and we're a very big queer podcast over here. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of us are, when we were coming out, it's not. I know I was worried about this. I grew up in Virginia. That when I came out, if someone didn't understand it, it was just immediately unnatural and thus not of God. Like it's a very it just must be satanic if I can't understand it immediately.
It's unnatural, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
So it really
Right.
is just projection. You're totally right. Wow.
Yeah, that discomfort.
We have another story.
Yeah, I just wanted us to sit in the discomfort of
I
the
was too
morality
uncomfortable.
panic. I know you were.
Yeah, I
Okay,
love that.
I'm gonna I'm gonna go next. Let's see. This one is called. Oh, good, perfect. Satanic Panic in Ohio.
Ooh.
That's where I'm from. Okay. This is from Faith, her. Hi, all. My name is Faith, and I've been listening for a few years now. Took me over a year to get caught up to listen to new episodes as they air. You asked for satanic panic stories, and I have a perfect example. I'm from southern Ohio near the Hocking Hills. That is where I went on a trip with my friend in high school, and I don't know. Nothing interesting happened.
It's
I'm like, what
beautiful.
happened there that I could say? Nothing. It's just beautiful area.
A memory was
like
formed.
it.
However, it is very Trumpy up there.
Mm.
Okay, I'm from Southern Ohio near the Hocking Hills. Logan, which is a town at the center of the Hocking Hills region, is full of small town charm and wonderful people. Back in the 1980s, in early October, an engaged couple went missing. A few weeks later, their dismembered remains were found in a cornfield. The murder remained unsolved for years, and there was speculation of cult or satanic involvement. It was scary enough for the town to change trick or treat to daylight hours, and they still have them in the daylight, usually the Sunday before Halloween. The woman's stepdad was tried and sentenced to death for the killings. He was then retried and found innocent and released. Eventually, 2 men confessed to the crimes and the real culprits were brought to justice. There was no occult or satanic involvement of any kind, just boiled down to terrible people being terrible. There's an episode of Buried in the Backyard about this case. That sounds like an investigation discovery show. I don't know if it is, but it sounds like it.
Yeah, totally.
About this case, as well as an episode of Your Worst Nightmare. Now, I can confirm that is an investigation discovery show. And it's a doozy. My mom grew up in Logan and remembers when this happened. There's lots of interesting lore and true crime in Southern Ohio. I'll have to suggest some haunted places for Em to check out. Also, I was supposed to see you in Columbus, but got COVID. Womp. Love you guys so much. Okay, so this is more like a real crime occurred, which is obviously horrible. Then it got funneled into a satanic panic occult scare. And then they were like, so Halloween's over.
Yeah. I wonder how many, like, was just any crime in the 80s just connected to satanic panic? Or, like, what did you have to do to
feels
commit
like
a crime
if it
and not
was
have satanic
I
panic
feel like if it
attached
was
to
like
it?
an unsolved crime, they would start looking that way. Is that true, Sarah? I don't know.
Yeah, what's funny is that I was actually just reading about this case a couple weeks ago, and I hadn't heard of it before, but I was kind of reading, I was preparing for an American Hysteria episode and kind of like ended up on this tangent about kind of specifically accusations of Satanism in Ohio, because there was just kind of partly because of it's I mean I don't know exactly why, and that was kind of part of what we talked about, that it was stickier in some places than in others. But yeah, kind of there was
Ohio
there were
tends
rumors
to
at the time
stuff
that there were like a lot of
sticks.
witches in Toledo specifically for some reason.
Oh, okay.
And I hope
Interesting.
that that's still true, you know. But
Yeah.
I hope so. I don't know much
Toledo
about
represent.
Toledo.
Yeah, right. Well, and what I remember about this case is that the stepfather of one of the victims was, I think, initially accused and convicted, not really on any basis except that he was, you know, they were, I think, a relatively new family in town. I think they didn't go to church. They were kind of like an unknown quantity for the people in the area. And I think that kind of it sort of follows the same logic, that if there's a crime that is just kind of too horrifying to sort of make sense of. And I mean, we do make sense of a lot of horrifying crimes, right? Like when we often aren't that shocked by, you know, by a husband killing a wife, because we kind of have internalized that as part of the inevitable price of living in a patriarchy, I think. But if there's, you know, something that just sort of like, that we can't fit into a narrative, even a scary narrative, then we will look to the outsider in town. And it feels like the Satanic Panic was just kind of a bigger, badder version of that same story. And I think that, I believe in this case that one of the defense theories on appeal was, no, actually it could have, maybe it was a cult. Did you ever think of that? So you gotta, maybe this guy was convicted of occult crimes. And so that was a case of, I think, the Satanic Panic actually being somewhat useful as an alternate theory. In a case with a very dodgy conviction that was later overturned. And so I think it's just that I mean, in Portland now, like I don't do it anymore because it was, you know, raising my blood pressure too much, but I used to look at, you know, Nextdoor for kind of my neighborhood broadly. And it was just like a lot of people freaking out over something that raccoons had clearly done, you know, but being like, some tweaker got into my backyard and threw my trash around like a raccoon would. And it's like, maybe it's
like
critters,
just like a raccoon.
you know?
What's so weird is there's a photo of the guy and he looks just like a raccoon. He's even like shaped
and he's got
like
those
a raccoon.
glowing eyes, you know, and cute little
And
hands.
a tail, yeah.
And a tail, holy shit.
And he sleeps in a trash can, yeah.
He's 18 inches high and he's fearless, but
be careful out there.
But I, you know, have kind of seen, you know, this time of people having a lot of anxiety Partly because I think there's a lot of, we've had a period in the past few years of a lot of propaganda about like, don't protect our unhoused neighbors, just fear them and dehumanize them. And then if you see something that, probably was the work of critters, you have this sort of boogeyman figure to blame
It's a
on it. So
boogeyman,
I think
exactly.
that also kind of I think the satanic panic kind of persisted maybe in some rural parts of America for longer, partly because there's a sense of being forgotten and unprotected by
Wow.
government, and this feeling of if something bad happens that we can't explain, then if we're not going to be protected, then we're going to maybe be more likely to entertain the worst possible fears. And I think that, and also if you're being told by authority that, satanic cults are out there and that they are very active, then it's not your fault that you're believing someone who tells you to
Exactly.
believe them,
Yeah. Well, this might be more of a paranormal question, but do you think that there was ever a layer of just like being in denial that someone might have committed something and just wanting to blame it on the devil making them do it or anything like that? Like, I know there's
Oh,
been a
that
few.
I
definitely
think so.
happened in true crime
Yeah.
cases too, where people will say like, "Oh, I swear he was possessed. He would never do this." And I mean, this is
Yeah.
just my own
There's also
anecdotally.
there's also the case that that we covered it's literally called "The Devil Made Me Do It," but I didn't know if that played into
Mm.
like a broader, like anytime there was crime, just to try to justify someone's actions,
Like sort of
if it was
dehumanize someone to be like, "Oh, that's the only way this could
yeah,
have happened." Sort of, yeah.
yeah.
Well, there was a case, I think, kind of also in Southern Ohio, I believe in the 80s, where basically a woman was dismembered and her legs were found separate from the rest of her body, basically. And so that's the kind of detail that just like really freaks you out, and that people, immediately started theorizing, well, I mean, of course it was a satanic cult that would do that,
Yeah.
because they would dismember people, and so it
dismembering,
just makes sense. And what turns out to have been the case is that the man who apparently killed her did that because he couldn't fit her body in the trunk, and so he had to cut off part of her body in order to make it fit.
So it's just practicality, not the devil.
Yeah, and I think that's
Ugh.
scarier, right? Like
That
Totally.
is scarier.
because like if my body is going to be dismembered, then it's like in a way less scary for me personally to think, okay, well, it's this cult and they're doing it for Satan, and it's part of this
It's like a
ritual that they do,
ritual,
and it's
right.
like the height
Yeah,
of premeditated evil, as opposed to somebody just killing you for no good reason, and then for sheerly practical reasons
Ugh.
cutting your body up to fit in the trunk of the
Yeah.
car. Like if
You're
something
right.
awful is going to happen to me, it should at least be,
Yeah.
because
For like
of the
some
Prince of
absurd
Darkness.
reason, right? For the
And again,
Prince
not
of
because
Darkness.
of some guy who was, literally or metaphorically named Dale.
Exact. I was about to say it. You just took the
Yeah.
words
Prince
right
of
out
Dale.
of my mouth. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. I guess if I knew that happened to somebody, I would almost hope that evil did it, because if a human does it, then I have
Just
to
like
reconcile with
then
like
you hear it's like their
people
neighbor,
can do
and you're
that.
like, right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's so
or
much
just that,
scarier.
that so often, so many horrifying crimes are committed by some guy, and you're like, why? And he's like, I don't know, I lost my temper. And you're like, Jesus
can't be.
Christ.
That
Like
cannot be.
that's Satan. He's Satan. Yeah. It's just scary. It's just really freaky.
Yeah. I think Satan is doing a lot of heavy lifting to distract us all from how scary guys are. And
Yeah.
I think that,
Whew, he
that,
gave me the
that
right
was nice of the
podcast.
devil to give us something more fun to think about, but he can take a break now. We got to
Yeah.
deal with this.
Oh, I'm so happy for
Great
him.
points all around. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Would you like
Well-
to read the next one, number 5, Sarah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Here, let me just pull this up here. These are great, by the way.
Aren't these
I
wild?
love,
Yeah, and like we
That's-
I
put the
love
call
your
out
listeners.
a few days ago, and we have so many. Even put some extras in here in case we needed any extras. But like, maybe we can read those someday for like a
Yeah,
Patreon or like a
Yeah.
listener episode.
Have me back, please.
of course.
Or yeah, you come back on and read them because I need your input. After this, we're gonna have to be calling you every time we get a satanic panic story.
I would love. Look, just put a little Satan symbol into the clouds. I'll see it.
Just
I'll come fly
the
over.
creepy
bat
little
signal, I
monster
love that.
emoji. Oops.
Great. All right, I'll start. Hi, I'm Christine and Eva. My name is Sandy, she, her, and I have been a listener since the beginning. I saw your Instagram post asking for stories relating to the satanic panic. I don't know why, but I was surprised that I had a story to share. During high school, 2010 to 2014, I lived in a small town in Saskatchewan, Canada called Martinsville. It was a quiet and small community. It has grown a lot since, but it holds a dark history. In 1992, a Martinsville mom began accusing a local woman who ran a
Sorry.
daycare of sexually
Thank you.
abusing her child. The police began investigating, and as they did, the accusations grew and grew until suddenly more than a dozen people, 5 of which were police, were accused of abusing 30 Martinsville children.
Ooh.
These folks were charged with over 100 charges connected with running a satanic cult called the Brotherhood of the Ram, where they allegedly practiced ritualized sexual assault of children.
Oh.
It should come as no surprise that these allegations were false. The interviews with the children are found to have been mismanaged, and the hysteria was found to be connected to the hysteria happening in the US because of the satanic panic. Not all was great in the end, however, as the son of the daycare owner was found guilty of molestation. However, there was no evidence of sexual abuse to the scale that the locals were claiming. One of the police officers charged was John Popowich. He was a police officer from Saskatoon, a city about 30 minutes away from Martinsville, who had taken an interest in the case. Because he was so interested, he ended up being accused and charged. However, when the children couldn't pick him up in a lineup, the charges were dropped. In 2002, the government apologized and paid him a $1.3 million settlement. I'll attach some links, including a CBC article about one of the police officers who was accused and charged. There have also been some TikTokers and podcasts who have covered this story. The story is one that most, if not all, people in Martinsville know. I remember as a teenager, this was a common story told among friends, my friends anyway. And having lived there, it's hard to believe that something that crazy happened in such a quiet town. Anyway, thank you for reading. I love the show.
Whoa. Okay.
That's intense.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you two think?
Well, my first question, and not really a question to anybody, but just my first thought is, I wonder how many times there was a cry for satanic panic because there was some major crime like this, and how many times satanic panic was actually how like were there rituals actually involved? Was there quote Satanism involved or
Like,
something
is that
dark?
ever? Is that ever?
Like, is it actually 0% of the time,
or did anybody ever hear about it and go, actually, I would like to participate in that?
Yeah,
And
no,
Yeah.
it's 0%, right? And you could make the argument that,
Wow.
maybe somebody gets hit it really well and we don't know, and sure.
Wow.
But it's 0% because
That's
and
crazy.
the case I was just talking about with the severed legs, that was a case of a guy who, according to the prosecution, and again, you have to take prosecutor theories with a grain of salt a lot of the time because, they want to maintain a winning streak quite frequently. It would be embarrassing to lose something.
Sure.
And sometimes you're trying a case with kind of shoddy evidence and you just keep going. But, that was the perpetrator in that case, at least according to the state, had, some amount of interest in Satanism. He had some black candles, which were something that was, could be owned perfectly innocently. But like, let's just say, okay. So what if he was a Satanist? What if he killed someone for his own idea of a satanic ritual? What if that was true? He was still acting alone. He was still committing murder for the same reason that people commit murder, which is not because he was in the grips of a larger supernatural power, not as part of some kind of a large-scale ritual, but for his own
Great point.
individual
Because he wanted to, for
emotional
whatever
needs. Because he
fucking
wanted
reason.
to.
Yeah.
Because for whatever for whatever reason he felt like it.
Yeah. Even if he felt
in terms
compelled,
of sexual
he still did.
abuse, like none of these daycare cases yielded evidence of satanic abuse. And what was tricky is that sometimes there would be a daycare where, as in this case, there was evidence of some kind of general, like normal, everyday non-satanic sexual abuse happening or children being abused because, kids are very vulnerable,
Mhm.
and these things do happen. But the idea that Satan needed to be involved, I think, was weirdly um, kind of a comfort to people, right? Because it implies
Yes.
that if people aren't worshiping Satan on a large scale, then they're not going to think to abuse your child. And
Yeah,
yet
it's
it's
sort
a
of like
much
this
more
wouldn't happen
quotidian kind
to
of a thing.
me, or this wouldn't happen in my. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. And I also
Oof.
think that like there's like our thinking on abuse has really grown a lot in the past few decades. And I think that something we're at least trying to recognize, or that there's a lot more opportunity for people to see, is that your parents may have generally meant well and yet still behaved abusively at times. Your parents may
Yeah.
have been pillars of the community who weren't
Right.
secretly Satanists, and they still might have been very abusive. They still might have been very cruel to you and been able to put on a good front for other people. And Satan didn't have to be involved in any of that, you know?
It's
And
just
Mm.
human
and that abuse
nature.
is just
No Satan
yeah.
needed.
And then also that people who aren't pure evil commit abuse, you
True.
know, that
Yeah.
abuse is really about we don't need any supernatural elements. It's an aspect of human relationships that you can't blame on an exterior force. It's just
Mhm.
something that we all have to work on kind of continually, and it's not something we're going to eradicate that easily.
I feel like that kind of goes to the denial of, you not wanting to believe that your parents or someone you know or just human beings in general could possess the ability to do dark things.
Right.
Just being
It's
able
also
to blame
like
it on something else.
I think that this is something that's really kind of pissing off conservatives, as is everything, I guess, lately. But it feels very new, this idea that like you shouldn't actually be mean to your children,
Yeah.
right? That like that's
Yeah.
bad for them.
Right.
like
It
shocking
builds
to them.
character.
Yeah, like in the 80s, we did kind of advocate like, yeah, you should be mean to your kids. Don't be too nice to them.
Yeah, what the
you
heck? You
know?
want him to throw a fit in the grocery store? I don't think so. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Hmm.
Okay, we have I have another one which is long, so bear with me, everybody, but I
Mhm.
got a feeling if Eva put it in, it's probably gonna be great. So this is called Satanic Panic at the Truck Stop, which I great title. I'm already
It's a
sucked in.
great name.
Hello, and that's why we drink fans. My name is Mel. They them.
Friends. But I like that you said fans. That's way more fun.
Oh God, did I?
Yeah.
Freudian slip. I hate that.
Hello, fans.
Hey fans. Hey. Hello, and that's why we drink friends. So sorry, everybody. My name is Mel. They them, and I'm from Chicago and a musician for a living. Wow, good for you. I'm currently 33 and have been touring a metal band since I turned 18.
Oh, we get the metal music.
This is gonna be good.
Nice.
This is gonna be good. You can imagine I've had my fair share of old biddies assuming I'm Satan incarnate.
Is that a song lyric? That should be a song lyric.
Being heavily tattooed and pierced and touring around with a van, RV, or bus full of equally tattooed, long-haired, big-bearded rejects for the last 15 years tends to bring on that stereotype. And by the way, I think I would feel the safest in my life hanging out with those
Yeah,
people.
right. In that van. Yeah.
We had two very different experiences in the same truck stop in the middle of small town hillbilly rest stop meets wrong turn meets Deliverance Scary, Kentucky. All
Okay.
that combined Kentucky.
I got to tell you, Sarah, I live in Kentucky, so I'm feeling and oh no. Is she gone?
I don't know.
Is she gone on your end? Is what I mean?
She's gone on my end.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was like, is it
Her
just me?
hotspot might have gone out.
Please stand by. We have to step away and go get wine. Answer the door.
This is where I tried to interject earlier. Sarah, I don't know if you know this about me, but I do live in Kentucky, so this all feels a bit targeted.
No, I
and I'm
didn't.
from
Yeah.
Southern Ohio, so I'm like, am I
So you're
the
right in the
problem?
thick of
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
I'm in the epicenter, I guess. Yeah.
You know,
And she
you just
grew
gotta
up-
support
she-
your local witches.
She grew up in a graveyard too, so in my mind, like she was just meant to be Satan incarnate.
I was gonna say, thank God I wasn't born in the 80s. I probably would have been, or 70s. I would have been in big trouble.
You would have had a lot of fun though. You would have just been in trouble all the time, probably.
It's just been sad and playing Dungeons and Dragons by myself.
Apparently, as I was getting out of our bus that was stopped at a fuel pump to go in to use the restroom and purchase whatever gas station filth I could fill my empty stomach with, a man approached our bus and met our drummer at the door and asked if we were a band and if he could check out our bus.
No.
Ooh, that's a firm pass for me.
Immediate no.
Mm-mm.
For some stupid reason, our drummer agreed. After the small town
Classic
man.
drummer behavior.
Classic drummer. You don't leave the drummer in charge of who gets in and off the bus, please.
You know, I know like one drummer, and this is exactly their
Yeah,
behavior. So I'm going to
exactly.
go off all experience. After that small town man that had never been outside the city limits marveled at the amenities of our bus that might as well have been a high-tech spaceship to him, he pulled out 2 giant gallon freezer bags full of weed and gifted it to us as he wished us well on our travels. And he said, quote, he would be praying for a safe return. For any normal person, they might have been completely freaked out, but for 4 wannabe rock star band members, 2 crew people, and a merch girl, 2 freezer bags full of free drugs made us ignore the strangeness of the encounter.
Yeah, that is how Satan's gonna get in there. He's gonna say free weed.
Literally,
and,
he's
like,
like,
you
It's a
know,
freezer bag, especially because those are
Yeah,
more
the
durable.
the freezer
Yeah.
bag, like that. Those
Yeah.
are expensive,
This is,
That's
you're
true.
totally right. This is how the devil would trickle in. And
and it's gonna work.
not even trickle in, kick the door down.
And
Because
hiding under all the weed was a pog.
It made the drummer let it on the bus.
Yeah.
well, the satanic panic doesn't begin until I finished peeing in the bathroom. I got out to wash my hands, and a woman looks at my heavily tattooed body, stretched ears, and pierced up face, and she looked like she'd seen the devil. I took my time washing my hands, pulled my wallet out to count some money for the snacks I'd already purchased in my mind, and continue to dawdle before I had to be stuffed on the bus en route to Florida for the foreseeable future. The woman then exits her stall, which she'd been mumbling in, which I later realized she
Praying.
was praying.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I was wearing a shirt from one of my favorite death metal bands, Vital Remains, love that, which had the world's old school death, or had the words old school death metal on it in giant letters. This old holier than thou bitch, oh my gosh, started the conversation by saying, I noticed your shirt mentions death and would like to let you know that death is not the answer. Death comes when God intends, and it's important to know where you're going. I
Well,
responded,
based on that, death is the answer. But yeah, sorry.
That's literally, what are you talking about?
death is certainly the
That-
guarantee of it all.
Death is literally the only thing we all have in common. Okay,
Yeah.
like that's the
Also,
only.
nobody
thing.
loves death more than Christians, who are like just see it as
That's
part
all
of their
they
5-year
talk
plan.
about.
Yeah.
100%. I responded by telling her that I thought I would come back here to this very truck stop when I die because they had the freshest hot dogs and cleanest bathrooms
There,
of any of
see,
the truck stops I've ever
That's
been
how
to.
you disengage. That's how you de-escalate. Okay, you go, well, these hot dogs are the best. I'll come here. This is my heaven.
Well, then the Jesus junkie asked if she could pray over me, to which
No.
I agreed.
What?
Wow.
I don't know what I would do either. I'd be like, just don't hurt me.
No,
Yeah.
I'd be like, no.
I
That
know
is hard to say no to.
It is. I mean, I talk big game, but like in the moment,
Yeah.
yeah, the panic.
I
yeah.
mean, it's so jarring. I'm like, what other jarring thing could you do next if I say no to you?
Mhm.
I know what a normal prayer is, as I grew up very strict Southern Baptist for the first 18
Mm.
years of my life and have been prayed over many times.
Oh,
This-
so you're like, this is old news
It's
to
like,
me.
whatever.
Okay.
Get in here, the water's
Come
fine.
on, yeah.
This was not a normal prayer, though. This woman
Uh-oh.
proceeded to do what I would explain as a don't do this at home self-learned exorcism.
No.
Uh-oh.
I let her go on for about 3 minutes before my stomach really started to rumble for one of those jalapeno tornado roller grill abominations. So I had to interrupt. I had Father Bitch Face is what we're calling her now,
Whoa.
and let
These
her
are
know.
all really good lyrics. I feel like we
Yeah.
got to keep these in the lineup.
Clearly, someone in heavy metal who is ex-Southern Baptist is like,
Yeah, it does fit. Yeah.
It feels like the name Jesus Junkie should be said as a screamo kind of song.
That's got to be on the shirt too. Like Jesus junkie and then the death. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. She reached in her bag and handed me a Bible and told me Jesus is the only answer. I told her I'd keep that in mind the next time I was invited on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Quick with it.
Wow.
I walked back to our bus with my new Bible, realizing that woman truly thought I was evil when I was just on my bus smoking free gas station weed, reading YA vampire romance novels, listening to podcasts, and forcing drunk band members to play Battleship with me at 4 a.m. I am far
Podcasts
from
are pretty evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am far from satanic, but not according to this woman. That night, we all signed the cover of the Bible and added our own artwork to the cover and sold it at our merch table for $50.
Oh,
Fantastic.
It sold out within 20 minutes of the doors being open after our merch girl started telling people the story. So the moral of this story is don't judge a book by its cover. Just say no to bathroom exorcisms and mind your own business if you see someone who doesn't align with your beliefs or lifestyle.
Holy
The end.
shit. Holy shit.
Wow.
Mel, what in the world?
Yeah, you know what feels, I'm sure in their mind it is with the best intentions. However, nothing feels more evil to me than someone thinking they have to pray over me. I'm like, cannot be the scariest thing you've ever
it's
seen.
like such a slight. It's like, excuse me? You're like, find someone else to pray over.
Well, it's
Or
just
is
like,
it a compliment? Is it like, I'm so badass that I'm scaring these old,
yeah, but in a world of satanic panic, I'm
Fair
just
enough.
like, I can't possibly, there has to be something more evil in your mind. Like if I'm it, then like first you haven't seen much of the world, but also like,
Right.
I don't know. I think it's so jarring to me. Again, I grew up in Virginia where that was like weirdly normal for people to just kind of corner you and be like, "Oh, I'm going to pray for you and now I will be, I don't know, the one that cures you," or it's just such a weird feeling. And I wonder when that became normal, the just approaching people and saying things to their face like that. Especially if satanic panic. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I imagine the 70s is when it kind of began, the end of the 70s. I know they say 80s, 90s, but I feel like the sex, drugs, rock and roll thing is kind of what launched it.
Yeah, and also just in kind of like the rise of kind of, I don't know, technology assisted evangelism, I guess, where we had the beginning of televangelism and sort of this kind of like newly developing branch of Christianity that needed something to do. And I always bring up Hal Lindsey's Satan is Alive and Well on Planet Earth, which came out in the 70s and is about like, when your kids are doing macrame and learning about astrology, that's actually part of Satan's plan to get them used to supernatural type stuff.
They're weaving his blanket right there with that macrame.
I mean, and also I know they say that satanic panic is the 80s and 90s, but like, weren't the parents of the kids from the 80s and 90s kind of doing like the Woodstock thing and all that? Like, weren't they? It feels a little hypocritical that all of a sudden we're saying,
from the mainstream that felt threatened by that, and that this was kind of the tide that, because I think what we're living through now is really backlash to the gains that have been made in women's rights, and also I think I talk about the satanic panic being a backlash to women's lib, but I think it was just as much a backlash to gay liberation, and this thing that we saw in the early 80s, and with the failure of the passage of the ERA around that time too, and then kind of it feels like it mirrors what we're living through now, where if marginalized groups make really minuscule gains in terms of civil rights, that gives it's like an unnecessarily freaked out middle an excuse to panic.
It like emboldens people and they feel like, oh, well, I have the right because
it's
society is on my side and that's Satan. Right.
And I feel like it's I think it scares people to just sort of see somebody enjoying what they think that they aren't allowed to enjoy, right? And if somebody's like going around on a bus, getting to see different parts of America, like getting cool tattoos and like singing badass sounding songs and having a band and like getting free weed from random guys. Yeah. Reading vampire romance. Like these are all fun things that, if you feel that you're inhabiting a branch of religion that doesn't allow you to enjoy life that way, then you have to, brand that as evil, I guess. I have never been prayed over yet, and I hope I get to avoid it. I do not know how I would respond. I mean,
it's odd when it happens. You just kind of stand there, and then when they're done, it's like I think they think you're gonna like transform in front of them into like Jesus himself, and
they're waiting for you to like float.
It's like
or
a stranger asking you if they can like Q-tip your ears.
Yeah,
it's just like we don't know each other.
It's like this is my aura. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I think if it, I don't know what other feelings I'm supposed to be experiencing from it, but I never grew up Christian. I was just surrounded by a lot of Christians who weren't afraid to kind of be all up in my face. And it was just more of like an awkward silence. It's like when people are like singing happy birthday at a restaurant to you and you're just kind of like waiting for it to be
waiting
over.
for it to end. Yeah.
And then when it does end, you're like, thank you. I don't know
what do I say? How do I exit? Yeah.
That's kind of how it always felt, where I was like, do you think that this was gonna fix me instantaneously. I don't know. They all
Right.
it was
Like,
always odd.
what do you want? You should just do a little twirl and
I
be
feel
like,
like if
look
that
at
happens
that. I
again,
can
yes,
twirl again.
like if that happens again, you should really like jump and be like, I haven't been able to jump in 30, like do
I mean,
something dramatic and be like, make them think that they're like,
one, that's
holy.
hilarious. But two, I feel like that not how a lot of the exorcism stories I've covered happened, where it's like you feel compelled
Yeah.
to react to people praying
Right.
over you.
Right.
I mean, when I say it's always, it's only happened I think twice in my life, but it was still 2 times too many.
Too many times. Pardon me. Yes.
No, but it's so weird to just like be threatened by the way that somebody lives, and it just happens to be categorically different than what you were taught means success. Like it's just oh well, she smokes, or what were their pronouns? I think they were they them.
Mhm.
They smoke weed and they're just going to bed late and they're just hanging out, and for some reason that's ungodly simply because it's not what you do.
Yeah.
It's just
But I think it's
insane to me.
I think Sarah made the good point too of like it's like a reactive thing
Mhm.
to I don't get
Mm.
that. I don't get to do
Right.
the fun. I have to restrict myself. So why do you get to run around looking like that, and
Yeah.
why do you get to be happy looking like that playing Battleship, whatever the
It's just
fuck.
jealousy.
Right.
And it's also like, there doesn't have to be jealousy. You could get on the bus, babe. You can hang out with us. It's fine. You're
I don't
making
know.
it hard on yourself.
I think it's bigger than that though. I think it's like the structure of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh.
also, this is like a side note, but I like recently rewatched Saved. Do you remember that movie? The Jenna Malone
No.
movie from like 20 years ago.
I don't
And it was so
remember.
kind of like, I don't know, Sundance kind of satire of the Christian right at the time. And it's about like, what if you were so devoutly Christian that you decided to have sex with your gay boyfriend to teach him to not be gay? And then, of course, that doesn't work. And he's sent to conversion camp and
Oh.
you are secretly pregnant and your best friend
Saved
Mandy
it is,
Moore
you said?
is trying
Em's
to
like,
sabotage you.
Em's like pausing the Brady Bunch movie and being like,
Exactly.
Saved.
Yeah. It's great. It's a really a lovely movie, and something that struck me revisiting it is that it tells a story of like Christian teenagers who go against what they're taught to do, but for good reasons, and kind of at the end of the day come around to this idea of like, I think the line that Jenna Malone has is, if God wanted us all to be alike, then why did he make us so different? And this idea that we're living, especially in this moment where it feels like religion is being, and Christianity specifically, is being co-opted by people who aren't really acting very Christian. It's kind of turned into a wealth accumulation cult, if
100%.
anything.
100%.
And I feel like I also just like, I don't know, I want to take this little moment with you here to say that I don't think that that's fair. And I think that if anyone who's listening feels alienated from their faith by the bad behavior of people who seek to represent it, then they don't get to do that,
beautiful.
We-
Beautiful.
There is one quick one left if you wanted to read it,
Yeah,
Christine.
let's do it.
Oh, okay. Here I go. Oh, I'm not
It's
in
just your turn.
Ohio.
That's the
I'm
only
not
reason
in Ohio anymore. I'm in Alabama. Okay.
Oh,
sure.
okay.
This should be interesting. Satanic Panic in Alabama. So this is from Beth. Hello to all the And That's Why We Drink crew, family, pets, and inanimate objects. I'm excited to share my Satanic Panic story with you. It's 1988. Picture this. It's 1988. And my rebellious older cousin Susan is Susan. My rebellious older cousin Susan is living with our grandparents in rural Alabama. They lived on 10 wooded acres that backed up to a national forest. It is 20 miles to the nearest grocery store, that kind of rural area. Our grandparents are gone for the weekend, and Susan decides to have a couple friends over. After sunset, they're all sitting on the back deck smoking something when out of a freezer gallon bag. By the way, I'm sorry, I meant to mention this earlier. I really thought that guy was going to be the problem, right?
Me
He's gonna
too.
go on the
I'm
bus.
glad that all worked out.
What
Yeah.
a red herring.
That's also the
Yeah.
moral of the story, isn't it, though? That like
True.
the scary one is
Yeah.
actually like the homie, and like the one who
Right.
should be
Yeah.
the quote good person in the story
No,
is like
you're
actually the
so-
scariest. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, at first it's like, well, of course, don't let Dale, I almost said Glenn, Dale on the bus. And it's like, no, this Dale just wants to look at your
Sometimes Dale's
cool...
got free weed.
Sometimes
Yeah.
Dale's like my stepdad who just, well, not with the free weed, but like just wants to check out the engine or whatever the fuck is
Yeah.
going on in this bus. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Side note. Let's see. So they're smoking something when they hear it. Chanting. and it's coming
Mm.
from the wooded area behind the house. They wait a few minutes, and the chanting isn't going away. It's getting louder.
Oh,
They step into the house and lock the door. They can still hear it even from inside the house. Devil worshippers, they whisper to each other.
that's a
They
weep.
debate on calling the police, weigh whether or not they're sober enough to do so, right? Because then you gotta,
Yeah.
the smell, etc.
Nothing to see here, officer. Yeah.
Nothing to see. Don't look in my freezer. Okay. Weigh whether or not they're sober enough to do so. Outside, the chanting continues. They're 3 teenage girls alone in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, so they decide to call the police. Miraculously, the cops show up quickly. Susan and her friends meet the cops out front and take them back while the chanting is still going on. Oh my God, there's like a siren in the
Oh
background.
yeah, that's
that,
from me.
But I
yeah.
love it. It sounds like a
Yep.
sound effect.
That's
a
a little
sound effect.
ambiance.
Now, Em, start chanting.
Yeah.
They all stand in silence listening. The officer asks if this is what Susan has been hearing, and she confirms it. The officer nods, pauses, and laughs a bit before saying, "That's frogs." That's frogs. You're hearing bullfrogs down at the creek. Thanks, Satanic Panic. It was not, in fact, devil worshippers. It was frogs. The
Yeah,
end.
that's
Frogs on
fantastic.
pogs.
And can I just say, I find frogs pretty scary. I think
They
if they're
are
little, they're cute, but a
scary.
big frog, like, do not ever come near me with a big frog.
Mm-mm.
Or any
Mm-mm.
frog to me. I don't need a single one of them.
Thank
What-
you. So many people are confused by that stance, but I really, right? They're just
They jump?
Their back legs are too strong. If they're a little bit bigger, they could overpower us. You know?
Their
For real.
tongues are like a mile long. They barely
Mhm.
blink. I don't like that I don't know where they're looking all the time.
They
Are
apparently
fish? Are they
sound-
on the land?
they
We don't
fish?
know.
Yeah,
Nobody
they can breathe
knows.
anywhere. There's no safe spot.
They have eggs.
Ugh,
Yeah,
I
red
can't even
flag.
think
You'll
about
never
it.
escape the frog. God, that's a good story.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love when Eva ends it on like a punchy little joke.
And
And what
also,
a
you know
good
what? I feel like
message.
so many of these
Yeah.
stories depend on what kind of a random cop that you get. Because if
True.
you had gotten a different guy who was like, I don't know what frogs sound like, and I'm willing to make an investigation out of this. Let's get into
Fair
it. Let's do a
point.
search.
Or-
Let's get an earth mover out here. Or he just
Yeah.
got a Dale with a good head on his shoulders.
Or it
Thank
could be
God.
another cop who also whispers devil worshippers, and then all of you are
Mhm.
scared, you know?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was a great one to end on.
that was perfect.
Thank you so much for coming on and joining our listeners
Humoring
episode.
us and adding actual like factual information and yeah,
Real
that
No,
was
takes.
this
really
was so
real-
fun.
real
and
hot
I
takes.
love your listeners, and like, I don't know, let's like have a moment of appreciation for all the
Yeah.
random Alabamians who said it's frogs.
Yeah.
I love that the cop laughed a little bit too. Like that's got to feel
Yeah.
good. Like, oh, I'm getting called out, these teenagers, and it's like, it was all just a good laugh. Now let's go home. I don't know.
And don't you
something
think
very-
based on the time that he had a little mustache?
Oh,
Just a
for
little one.
sure. You gotta believe he had the mustache for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Oh man, I love it. Well, thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Do you mind pitching your show one more time
Yeah,
so everyone can go
Of
check it out?
course. Yeah, please check it out. We don't have any frogs in it, which is maybe
Thank
a plus or a
God.
minus. I just
Green
wanted
flag.
you to know. So it's called The Devil You Know. It's out from CBC Podcasts. We're going to have all the episodes out in the next couple weeks, or you can listen to them all, or you can listen to them very slowly. We have bonus episodes. You can listen however you want. It's wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also listen to my show You're Wrong About, where we've talked about the Satanic Panic quite a bit over the years as well, but never a good frog story like this one. This was a first.
Did you know I saw you live, Sarah? I saw you live. I saw You're
No.
Wrong About live, and
Where
I
was that?
I was with Lisa Lampanelli. We went and saw your
Oh
show.
yeah, I remember
Where
that
were
show.
we?
Was that in Philly?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yes, it was so fun. It was so fun. So anyway,
makes me
yeah,
so
I
happy.
encourage
Yeah,
everyone
that
to go
was a
check it
great
out.
show.
It's a great show. It's a great podcast, and it's a great live, and all of the
Yeah,
things.
we
So
got to do those again. Well, it's
it's
just
an
Yeah,
honor.
thank you so much for having me, and let's listen to more frogs sometime soon.
Yeah.
Let's not. Let's listen to some satanic chanting, okay? I'll
Yes.
just
Yeah.
leave it.
I
there.
feel safer there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
me
tramping
too.
around in the forest. We'll find something good.
Beautiful. Yeah, come to Kentucky. We got lots of it.
Yeah.
All right.
All
And happy December and happy 2026, everybody. Because next time you hear a
Wow.
listeners episode from us, it'll be next year.
Ah!
So happy early new year.
Sounds
Bye.
good. Bye.
Bye.